Hey y'all, it's Brady. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, welcome. I hope that you subscribe and I hope you stick around. If you are not new here, I am so glad to have you back and I'm so glad that you're sticking around. So, this video is going to be my fall comfort meals. This is a part of the collab with Moss Family TV. And I'm so excited to be participating with this. I did this last year. I think I did 2 or 3 weeks of it last year. So what it is Fallon over at Moss Family TV hosts a Fall Food Friday open collab. So each Friday of October, there's a different fall food video. It is an open collab. You just go to her channel, which will be linked down below. That playlist will also be linked down below for you. And I'll try to add it up in the top somewhere in this video also. But it's an open collab, so you just go to her video and share your link, and then she can add you to the playlist. So I am really excited to participate again. This first week I'm going to share with you my homemade beef stew in the crock pot and some rosemary quick rolls with a shortcut and homemade chicken and noodles. Now, I am taking a shortcut on the homemade chicken and noodles too, so if any of that sounds daunting, don't think that it is. They're really simple recipes. They just cook all day pretty much, but you don't have to do a whole lot. So it's great, and they're very yummy. This is exactly what I think of when I think of fall. So I hope y'all enjoy. Let me know down below what you think. What are your favorite recipes that you like to make in the fall? I'd love to know. If you are coming here from Fallon's channel, hi, welcome. I'm so glad to have you. Like I said, I participated in this last year a little bit, and I'm happy to do it again. I'm so excited. I have a 5-year-old little girl, a 2-year-old little girl, and the husband, and we have a crazy dog that runs around, so just a busy life. And I share lots of grocery hauls, some what's for dinner, some meal prep, some freezer meals, cooking recipes, day in the lives. I'm also newly back in college, so you'll see some insight on that and kind of my opinions and my progress going through school. So if any of that interests you, I'd love to have you subscribe and stick around. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's jump right into the beef stew recipe. Alright, so this first meal we're going to get started with, as you can see, is beef stew. Super simple in the crock pot. Here we go. So this is everything for the most part that I'm going to use for this recipe. You can do this on your stovetop, in your crock pot, in your oven, whatever is most convenient for you. I have got some beef stew meat here that I had just packaged up in a freezer bag. We've got minced garlic from Sam's Club. If you've never bought your garlic from Sam's Club, this is the best deal. It's $4 for that huge container. Keeps in your fridge. We've got some green beans, some corn, and guys, you can use frozen or canned, whatever works for you. Beef broth, tomato sauce. If you don't have any beef broth, use water, and beef bouillon. If you don't have any beef bouillon, use that. Just water. Alright, so I've got some Italian seasoning, some au jus, and then we've got some yellow potatoes, Worcestershire sauce, and you saw the carrots there. And I've also got an onion that I'm going to chop up and put in there. So I've got my crock pot heating up. I like to do that for most all of my meals. Just makes life a lot simpler because it will start cooking faster if it is already hot. So just going to get this going. And I usually start with the meat just because it takes up the majority of the space in here. And then I'm going to spoon in a few tablespoons of garlic. I am not precise on this, so you'll have to bear with me on that. But I read something one day, so then I'm going to open these cans, by the way, and just put those in here. But I read something on Facebook a while back that was like something to the effect of Southern women don't cook by recipes. They wait till their ancestors say that's enough, darling. Like, I laughed out loud because that's how I cook. I just wait until I'm like, oh, that seems about right. Something just tells me it is. So that's how I cook. Let me know down below, is that how you cook? Or do you follow recipes verbatim, just like they say? Yeah, I'd love to know. All right, in go the veggies. And you can add a lot more veggies. This is just what I had on hand. And I'm gonna just throw these baby carrots in whole, not gonna cut them up. They will cook down and be very soft anyway, so you don't really have to worry about that, of them being larger pieces. It also gives it kind of a rustic look to your beef stew, which I really enjoy. And I'm just gonna chop up this onion. I am gonna put quite a bit of onion in here. This is just a yellow onion. You can buy like a Vidalia, a sweet onion. You could use a purple onion, red onion, whatever you want to call it. You could use shallots if you have those on hand. Just whatever you're in the mood for. And I just rough chop those, as you can see. Still big pieces. It's going to, like I said, it's going to break down and spread out anyways. So I just threw that whole onion in there. Going to toss away my scraps and get to peeling these potatoes. I just like to cut off bad spots on here. A lot of times with these yellow potatoes, or even red potatoes are great for this. You could just wash them and chop them up, but as you can see, these guys have been sitting here a while and they are still perfectly good. Do not be concerned by that. I have always cooked them even when they are sprouting. I just cut all that off and cut away any little bad spots that are on there, but you can see the inside of these potatoes were perfectly fine. So I will just set those aside and then cut them into smaller portions later. And yes, I understand a lot of people use a potato peeler, but I can't stand them. We don't even own one, because I don't even think we own one. If we do, it's shoved in the back of a drawer somewhere that I haven't touched in years. I hate them. I don't know why. I know a lot of people prefer them. My Nana has always cut potatoes and things this way, and so it's just kind of how I've always done it. So I don't know. Let me know. That's another question for you down below in the comments. Do you use a knife, or do you actually use a potato peeler? And if anybody composts, let me know what your setup is. I would love to know, because I hate throwing these scraps out if I could be making compost out of these. But it'd have to be a super simple, non-smelly for the rest of the neighborhood kind of way. And then you're going to just see here, hopefully you can see with my arm in the way. There you go. I'm just cutting them up into rough size pieces. There's no real science to this. You do want to leave them kind of big. You don't want to teeny tiny dices, because they're going to cook down. Some people prefer to add their potatoes at the end. I don't. I like to just throw them all in at one time. It makes it super simple if you've got to be around the house doing a bunch of stuff or out and about. Everything just cooks. You don't have to worry about adding more stuff later. You can also, a lot of culinary books, a lot of chefs will prefer to sear their meat as well before they put it in for a stew or a pot roast or something like that. But guys, I don't feel like dirtying up another dish. If I make it in the crock pot, that is because I need to throw it in there and go. So you can do it either way. Just telling you what I do. Alright, now I'm going to add salt and pepper. I added the Worcestershire sauce. And you can't see my arm back there, but it is readily adding lots of pepper. We like lots of pepper in our house, and something is up with this salt and pepper shaker. The pepper does not want to come out anyways, so it is what it is. I wouldn't add a ton of salt to this, because there's quite a bit of salt in these seasoning packets, and there's also quite a bit of salt in Worcestershire sauce, so you know, go easy on that, because you won't need quite the amount that you may think you do. All right, and I'm gonna add more garlic because that's just how I go. So we added garlic on top of the meat. Now we're gonna add garlic on top of the veggies. And then I'm just gonna kind of mix it around and try to get everything coated because I want all those seasonings. Since I put the seasoning packets in on top of the veggies, I just want to make sure that they get that I get that seasoning down on the meat as it begins to cook. It will all cook together, but yeah. And then you're seeing me add just a little bit of water here. It's probably half a cup. You don't want to add a ton of water unless you just love for your soup to be, or your stew to be super liquidy, because it's not going to cook out as if it were on the stove. Here's a shot of after a few hours of it going. The meat has completely thawed because it was not totally thawed when I added it. And so things are now separated and everything is cooking together. So I'll come through periodically every hour or two, just kind of stir it around, see how it's looking, just to keep everything moving.
I'm actually going to set mine to low now, and we are going to let it go about another 3.5 hours, and check back in there. Periodically, you just want to come through and stir it. You don't necessarily have to. That's just what I like to do. So
I'm just going to cook this for a few more hours.
Alright, so as you can see,
Okay, and here you can see it has flipped itself over to the warm setting, and it has cooked several hours on low at this point. I did start it off on high, but now we are down to low and then to warm.
Alright,
So that is what it looks like all cooked together. You can see
And the
here
best way to
that my
tell, because
potatoes,
I
one
put
way that I know that it
frozen
is
meat in
done
there. So the
is my
best way to
potatoes
tell-
will just fall apart.
And it's okay
when
that
I
it's a little
smush
red.
into
It
them.
is cooked. It just
Again, with the
didn't
meat
flake.
as well, it will do the same
I've
thing. You
noticed
can
that
also check your
roast
carrots.
and stew meat tend to do
There
that.
we
So
go. You
if
can kind
you
of see
can
how that
tell,
meat
dear,
just falls right apart.
when I do my spinach
And this
and
makes
knock
a
the lid off the
ton,
Crockpot, sorry
an
about that,
absolute
guys.
ton. So be
whenever
prepared to
I
eat on it for a
kinda
while or
dig
to
my
feed
spoon
a
into
crowd.
that, you can see how it falls
But this is a
apart.
great fall
So
comfort
that
food,
just lets you
super
know that
simple
you
to
are
just
good to
throw it
go.
all in the crock pot. And if you're
You
not
can hear my
home to
kiddos
stir
playing
it
in the
up,
background.
like, it will be fine.
Alright, so let's also
It will
cut
all
into a
cook together
potato.
and it will
There
be
you
fine,
go.
I
You can
promise.
see that one really well.
If
So,
you are
that
going
is
to
dinner.
leave the house as soon as you put this on and you don't
I
plan to be
will show you
home,
what this looks
I
like.
would just go straight
plated up
with
or
putting it on low.
dished up in a bowl, rather.
If it's not going, if
And
you don't
this
have one
is
that
a
you can program to
7
go
or
from
an
high
8
to
quart.
low
I
to
am
warm
actually not
for
sure
you.
now. Crockpot for, well, slow
You know what I'm
cooker,
saying? Or if you don't have one where your phone can,
so
you can
just
control it that way or something fancy.
either a 7 or an 8.
Most of us
This
just
makes
have a regular
lot.
crock pot
This
with
is
these
about
settings.
2.5
So
pounds of
if I were
beef
you,
stew meat.
just put it on
I
low
think I
when you
said that in the
leave,
beginning,
and
if not,
then
2.5
8
pounds.
hours or 9
Plus
hours
all the
whenever you
veggies
come
that
back
saw me
home,
add and all the
it
liquids,
should
so,
be perfect and ready
it's
to go.
filled
And you can see
almost
those
to the
onions are
tippy
nice and
top, so,
translucent.
It definitely does take a
everything is
large
looking
crock pot,
delicious.
or you can make this on the stove in a large pot. So that is everything.
All right, and here is the finished product. You could make rolls, you could make cornbread. We're just eating it this night with some saltine crackers. And that is a look at it, just dishing it up in a bowl. We put ours on a plate so we can throw the crackers together. And that is a great fall comfort food easy meal. Moving right on into our homemade chicken and noodles. Now, I'm also going to show you some quick and simple, they do take some time, but they're super easy shortcut rosemary rolls. So I'm just going to butter this dish, and then we will plop our dough in there. And as you saw, I'm just using some frozen balls of dough that are just dinner rolls. These happen to be, I believe, the Rhodes brand. And I've gotten these at Walmart, at Kroger. Various places have them. I believe even Sam's Club sells like a super large package of them. If you're wanting to make these for a crowd, you would just want to make several pans. So I'm just going to check that I have covered the whole pan all the way up the sides there that I'm showing you with the butter. Yep, the Rhodes dinner rolls. I've got 12 left in here, so I'm just going to spread these out 3 across into 4 rows. As you can see, just put them in here the best way you've got. If you've got more of these, or you've got smaller pans, then you would just put less in each pan. If you have more of these, obviously put them on multiple pans. Whatever works best for you. You just want to give them some room to rise. So I have turned my oven on to 350 as if it was preheating, but I just turned it off once it hit about 160, and I'm letting it cool for a moment and then cool down just a little, and then I'm going to stick these in here covered in saran wrap just to rise. If you're going to be gone all day, then you can just leave these covered sitting on your stove or on your countertop, and they will naturally rise on their own. But if you are kind of in a time crunch where you need this to be done in a few hours, then I would do it in the oven like this, just in a warm oven, not hot. You certainly don't want to melt your plastic wrap, but you also don't want to, you certainly don't want to actually cook the rolls yet. So we're going to let those go, and then I want to show you my new favorite thing. Well, not new, I've used them for years. I just happened to be out on the night that I made beef stew. But these Crockpot liners, you can buy the Reynolds brand, but I have also used these Kroger brand ones, and they're great. I think at Kroger the 4-pack is $1.99, so it's definitely a great deal. So I'm just going to line my Crockpot. I've also thrown 2 split chicken breasts that have the bone in and the fat still on the skin, and so I just threw those in the Crockpot. They are still partially frozen, but it will be okay. I'm also going to add this 32-ounce container of chicken broth. If you don't have any chicken broth, you could use chicken bouillon and water, or you could just use water. Either way will be just fine. I just happen to have this to use up, so I'm going to use it. But I have made this many times with just water without even the bouillon cubes. You're going to get a lot of flavor from having this bone in the chicken. It just makes a big difference. Now, these do take a while though to cook, and this is not my hottest crock pot. The other one definitely cooks at a higher temperature. I want to show you also that you're going to need 2 cans of cream of chicken soup, black pepper, that's my salt. I've got a little rosemary, some oregano. You could also use poultry seasoning, and I've got garlic powder and parsley as well, but we're not going to add those in just yet. If you have the cream of chicken, or you can find it that has the herbs, it'll just say cream of chicken with herbs. You can definitely use that. Original recipe that I saw a long time ago that I based mine loosely off of, that's what they did, is they used the cream of chicken with herbs, and it definitely gave it really good flavor, but I don't always keep that on hand. So I'm just going to let this cook for several hours. This has been a couple hours, and you can see how well these have risen, and it is now, so it's been almost 4 hours of them sitting just in a warm oven. Also wanted to show you that to go with this meal, I have got some of the Allen brand green beans, just the Italian cut, and I have just got some bacon fat in there. You can also use ham hock or fatback. If you're not accustomed to making like southern style green beans like this, any of those fats will work. And you can see there to the left, I don't know if you noticed that, but to the left of my stove is a container of bacon grease that we use to cook with. So anytime I make bacon, I just save it. So I'm going to pull these out and remove the plastic wrap. And you can see they are nice and airy. I'm going to add some rosemary. And this is where you're going to personalize and kind of amp up the flavor on these rolls, because but by themselves, just baked at this fluffy stage, they're great. But you're really going to impress your guests if they notice the fresh herbs. Well, it looks like it was fresh herbs, but it's just dried rosemary. So I'm going to put this on 375. And you'll notice here at the end that mine kind of fell a little bit. I think it was from removing the plastic wrap, but they did work out well. You're going to bake them for about 15 minutes. Just keep an eye on them as they're browning. And they're going to look like that. All right, so I've got about 2 tablespoons of butter, real butter, just salted butter. You could use unsalted also, it doesn't matter. And I'm just gonna put this in the microwave and melt it down. It doesn't take very long to melt the butter, but here you can see what that looks like. And I'm just gonna take a pastry brush, or you could use a spoon if you don't have a pastry brush. I just happen to have this one because it came with the Pioneer Woman set. I'm trying to show you where it says Pioneer Woman, but it's hard to find it. But there's her little saying that was on there. Everything's better with butter. And I'm just going to brush this on like so. There's no real science to this. Like I said, you can use a spoon and just use the back of the spoon to kind of spread it out. Whatever works for you. Don't go buy special things like this just for the one recipe. Now, if you get into things where you think, oh, I'd really like to have a pastry brush. Fun fact, the one that I had before this one that came in my Pioneer Woman set, that was a Black Friday deal, before I got this set, I actually got one for $1, the red Betty Crocker brand from the Dollar Tree, and it was great. It worked just fine. So you don't have to have expensive things. I do prefer quality things in the kitchen. I do think they make a difference, but you can also make do with a lot with just what you have. Cooking doesn't have to be super complicated. All right, back into the oven they go. Never mind my dirty oven, y'all. Back in the oven they go for a few minutes. We just want to get that butter on there, and I'm going to throw some break and bake cookies in there because that's how real fancy we're going to keep that. But the girls wanted some cookies, so we found these at Walmart. If you saw in a grocery haul, maybe. No, I don't think they were in our last grocery haul. I think we picked those up by ourselves. But anyways, you can see where some of the rolls kind of fell down, but it's fine. They still taste great. Just be careful removing your plastic wrap so that it doesn't puncture the air holes. So I have pulled my chicken out of the crock pot. You can make this entire meal in the crock pot. That is what I would normally do. However, I wanted this to speed up a little bit for dinner. We had family coming over, so I just shredded all that chicken and threw it in this bigger pot on the stove. And I have added in the broth from the crock pot that this chicken cooked in. I just left the bones out, obviously, and I added both cans of cream of chicken soup. And I'm just going to let that come together. And I'm showing you what this looks like. Again, I just added both cans and the broth from the chicken that it cooked in. Alright, now I'm going to add my spices. So I've just got the parsley here, and I'll go ahead and add the other ones in. So we've got black pepper, and I've got this on about medium heat, just bringing it to a simmer. You don't necessarily want it rolling, boiling, but you do want it to warm through. And just stir it all in. I'm going to let it come to a really good warm state. Like I said, just a simmer, not a boil. It's about 6 o'clock and we're going to eat soon. So I am adding my noodles. I a lot of times like to make my own homemade noodles, but this time I didn't. I just bought these. This is the larger package, the 24 ounce. You do want to keep these frozen. They come in the freezer section kind of over by the frozen dough and breads and things like that. If your grocery store sells ravioli, they probably sell those too. This is the Reams brand, so this is a double pack, but I'm just going to throw these in here, and then you just need to let it cook through enough to cook the noodles themselves, and then it is ready to go. But homemade egg noodles are really simple. I will say, if you have just like the dry noodles that come in the regular pasta aisle, those egg noodles, it will work for this, but they are a different texture. These are more of like a dumpling texture. They're a little chewier, but you could certainly use those in a pinch. So now you can see it is bubbling and simmering, and how thick and creamy that has gotten, absorbing that pasta. And that pasta has been absorbing the water. And it is ready to eat. You can just check and just see when you can cut through your noodles with your spoon that they are good and tender and ready to go. You do want them to still have some texture left. I don't like to overly cook them. But here it is, all plated up and ready to go. I made some quick instant mashed potatoes. We've got a bowl of our homemade noodles and chicken and our Idaho instant mashed potatoes. I certainly like to make homemade, but those are great in a pinch. You can see how doughy and delicious these rolls are. And some green beans. And that is homemade chicken and noodles, y'all. That's everything for today's Fall Food Friday video. I'm so glad that you stopped by. I hope that you'll subscribe and stick around. Again, the link to the collab and Fallon's channel will be in the description box, and like I said, hopefully also up here. If you love grocery hauls, I'll link down here at the end also my playlist for our once a month grocery hauls and just our grocery hauls in general. So if those are interesting to you, stick around. And I'll also link for you my recipe videos that I shared last year for Fall Food Friday if you're interested in those. So thank y'all so much for joining me. Let me know down below again, what are your favorite fall recipes to make? I'd love to know. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye.